Hey guys, today we're going to do the unboxing and overview of a very interesting and special device that I never thought that I would get, actually. So this is the FxTec Pro1 X, and let me explain the story behind this phone, why I'm so surprised and shocked that I actually have this in front of me. So FxTec is a British startup company that basically originally they had a project to design a keyboard for the Motorola Moto Z line of modular smartphones. But the team decided to instead shift focus and build a complete Android phone called the FxTec Pro1. That was released back in 2019. Then, in the fall of 2020, I actually ordered this back in December 2020 originally, like pre-ordered it. They introduced the Pro1 X, and they had a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo. And yeah, I backed this over 3.5 years ago, okay? So I never actually expected to get this phone because it's been such a long time, and I thought honestly that they were just gone. I thought the company was dead, and I thought that I lost my money. This was like $700 US I paid for this, and yeah, I thought I would never, I thought I would never see this phone because yeah, like the company just stopped giving updates, and it wasn't until very recently that they just said after like 6 months of no updates, they finally emailed me and said, hey, we're shipping your device. And I was so shocked to get that email. I couldn't believe that it was true, and lo and behold, I finally have it here in front of me. Yeah, this is, wow. I mean, I have to admit, I'm pretty shocked that this device actually came. I thought I lost my money for sure when I backed this device. So I actually really like, like very interesting phones. If you guys have watched my YouTube channel, I like to review like phones that I think are very unique and special and interesting. I don't just buy like normal looking phones or use like phones everyone else uses, right? Yeah, that's why I rarely really use iPhones and stuff. Even if I get the iPhone, I think my last one was the mini version, which not many people had. But yeah, FxTec. Very interesting company and a very interesting phone because it comes with a full-size QWERTY keyboard, I guess. Well, not full-size, but anyways, they fit a physical keyboard inside of this phone, which is really interesting. I think the most direct competitor to this phone is another UK startup company called Planet Computers. And they also released a crowdfunding campaign back in 2020 for a device called the Astro Slide. So I backed that as well, and that one also took a while to come out. I think that took about 2.5 years until they released the Astro Slide. And I did a video on it. If you guys are interested, go check out my video review of the Planet Computers Astro Slide, because that's also a very interesting device and kind of similar to the Pro1 X in many ways, because it's by a UK startup company that makes physical keyboard phones. Yeah, although the phone itself is, yeah, it's definitely a bit different, but they still kind of have the same concept. And yeah, so I think this is very interesting because in that video for the Astro Slide, which I did all the way back in 2022, I said, yeah, when this phone comes out, the Pro1 X, which I was still waiting for at the time, then I'll do a comparison between the two. And because the Pro1 X took such a long time to come, I thought it was never going to come. So then, yeah, I don't have the Astro Slide anymore, unfortunately. I ended up selling the Astro Slide, and the reason is because personally, I didn't feel like that was a phone I would use a lot. I know it was designed to be like, the reason why the Astro Slide was developed over their previous phone, the Cosmo Communicator, was because it was easier to use as an everyday device because it had this kind of form factor, actually the same kind of form factor the Pro1 X has, and the Pro1 has, which is just the screen and a slide-out keyboard. So that's designed to be easier to use as an everyday device, but I didn't really use it as an everyday device anyways, right? It's still not really a polished device, and they didn't really update it very much, and I felt like Planet Computers really neglected the Astro Slide. And yeah, I just didn't feel like it was like $1,000, I think is what I paid for it. It definitely wasn't worth that money. So I ended up selling it for pretty much the same price I paid it for, because it's still a pretty rare device. So I was able to find a buyer on eBay pretty quickly for that one. Yeah, so it's still kind of a rare device to get the Astro Slide because many backers still haven't received it for one reason or another. So yeah, I ended up getting rid of it, but I still have their previous device, the Cosmo Communicator here, actually. So I'll be doing a comparison between this one and I'll reference the Astro Slide as well, but I do have the Cosmo Communicator here instead because I feel like it's a more unique phone than the Astro Slide, at least from my perspective, because this one is Actually, this one runs Debian and Linux as well, which the Astro Slide, I believe, still can't really run because, yeah, like Planet Computers didn't really support it very well. Anyways, that's a little bit of the background behind the Pro1 X. I'm very shocked that this phone finally came to my doorstep. And okay, so you might be wondering what's the differences between the Pro1 X and the Pro1. Really, the only differences are upgraded RAM and storage. So this is 128 gigs, 6 gigs of RAM. I think the processor is upgraded as well. I think, let me see. Yeah, this processor is running Qualcomm Snapdragon 662, I believe. Yeah, actually, it lists two of them, actually, 835 and 662. I wonder which one it's actually running, but the specs page actually lists two different processors, 835 or 662. Okay, anyways, it's a newer processor than the Pro1. 6-inch display, 2160 by 1080, AMOLED, Gorilla Glass 3. This is a 6 GB RAM version. They also have an 8 GB RAM version. Can also go up to 256 gig, but I got the base 128. And overall, I would say, yeah, 48 megapixel camera. I would say overall it's not like a huge upgrade over the Pro1, which is also why I'm very, very confused why this took such a long time to come out. I mean, the Pro1 X isn't that different than the Pro1. So why did it take such a long time to make this phone? I don't understand. We also had a option of choosing the operating system when they shipped it to us. So I originally opted for Ubuntu Touch because I don't really have an Ubuntu Touch device. That would be interesting to get it. We also have option to use Lineage OS instead, but I already have a device with a Lineage OS, which is my essential phone. So I didn't really need another device for Lineage OS. But yeah, it's an option. It ships with Android and either Lineage OS or Ubuntu Touch. I went with Ubuntu Touch because I thought that was a more unique option. So I'm curious to see what it actually runs when I open it up. Does it actually run Ubuntu Touch or not? We'll see. And yeah, this is designed in London, UK, made in China, as you would expect. Everything, of course, phones and everything are usually made in China these days. The only exception actually was my Motorola Razr Fold, which was actually made in India, believe it or not. And yep, you got your UK here. So this pretty much is a direct competitor to the Planet Computers Astro Slide, also by a UK startup company, also making physical keyboard phones. Also took a long time to come out. And yes, this box looks exactly the same as the Pro1. It doesn't say anywhere that it's a Pro1 X, except on the back you might know that the model number is called QX1050. Otherwise, it's pretty similar to the Pro1 in terms. The box is pretty much the same. I think they just reused the box for the Pro1 because I did a review and unboxing of the Pro1 too. So yeah, it pretty much looks the same as the Pro1 in terms of the packaging in the box here. Okay, so here's what it comes with. You have this charging brick here, USB-A. Even has the FxTec logo. And yeah, different adapters. So it comes right now standard with a EU adapter, although this also works in Korea as well, since Korea uses the same plugs as EU. And it comes with the US adapter, which I'll probably be using, right, because that's what we use here in Canada too, and the UK adapter. Okay, so probably I'll be using the US one. Yeah, in fact, I didn't even know FxTec was still alive until earlier this year, when Mr. Mobile, Michael Fisher, if you guys know him, the famous YouTuber, which I listen to a lot of his videos, and I love Mr. Mobile, he decided to make this startup company called Clicks, which makes physical keyboard phones for the iPhone, and I guess later on they might make an Android version, but he said in that video, or actually if you go to the website as well, Clicks is developed in collaboration with FxTec. And I found that really interesting. I'm like, what the heck? FxTec is still alive? Yeah, I was a bit pissed when I heard that because I was like, okay, so you're making a new device with Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile, and you're not even like fulfilling your old product that you already promised to backers like 3.5 years ago, the Pro1 X. Like, come on, man. Like, fulfill your old devices first before you make new devices, right? That's, anyways, I got kind of peeved about that. I don't know if any of you guys were Pro1 X backers and you're watching this video, you probably know how I feel, right? When I heard about the Clicks keyboard, I was like, okay, you're making a new product. You haven't even shipped the Pro1 X that you promised all of us over 3.5 years ago. Like, yeah. Anyways, at least we finally got. At least I think I finally got the device. I don't know about other backers, but Yeah, at least I finally got it. I thought I lost this device and I thought it was a scam. Well, good thing I finally got it. Anyways, comes with a USB-A to USB-C cable and quick start guide here, the Pro1 X. So you know, even though the box is exactly the same as the Pro1, you know it's the Pro1 X because, well, because of the phone which we'll be looking at, and then this manual here which says Pro1 X. Again, I have no idea why it took so long for them to make and ship this phone. It's not that different than the original Pro1 in terms of appearance. It's just the internals that's upgraded, right? I think it's just the hardware that's been upgraded. I don't think there's no need to redesign the phone because it looks exactly the same. So anyways, yeah, this looks pretty much exactly the same as the Pro1 to me. Yeah, your phone, safety information. Yeah, anyways, we can just take a look at the phone. You guys will see what it looks like. I've already done an unboxing video of the original Pro1, so I kind of already know what the phone's going to look like and what to expect. But if you guys haven't watched the video, then this will pretty much be the first time you guys see this form factor, which again I think is kind of similar to the Astro Slides form factor. Okay. Alright, let's take a look at the phone itself. Alright, here we go, guys. The FxTec Pro1 X. So in general, on the surface, it looks like a normal everyday smartphone, right? It doesn't look that different than your typical smartphone. Turn it around, it has the FxTec logo on the back, a 48 megapixel camera. By the way, only one lens. It doesn't have a telephoto or ultra wide angle, only one lens here. I mean, you're not really going to use this to take many pictures because honestly, these startup companies like Unihertz and Planet Computers and FxTec, they're not going to be making like good cameras on their phones because it's just hard. It's hard for a startup company to make a good camera. That's why all the best cameras on a phone are from the big companies because you need a lot of software experience for that. It's not just about the hardware. They have this 48 megapixel Sony lens on it and stuff. They got the hardware. Even Sony, for example, they can't really make good cameras on their phones. And they're a huge company. It takes a lot of software experience to actually optimize the camera. It's not just about the hardware. That's why Google, Apple, and to a limited degree, I would say Samsung, they have the best camera phones on the market because they have good software engineers. If you don't have good software engineers, you can't just put good hardware on your phone and think it's not. You get the megapixel count or whatever. That's just one part of it. In order to actually get a good camera on a phone, you have to have good software processing. And most companies don't because you need to hire really smart software engineers to make that camera. And that's just why, I mean, just the reality that the vast majority of smartphone companies cannot compete on the camera. Like really, it's only the very, very top companies like Apple and Google, and yeah, those companies can have a pretty good camera. But yeah, the rest, like FxTec, there's just no way this camera is going to be good. I already know that. Anyways, made in China. Of course, this model is the QX1050, which is, I guess, the part of the Pro1 X line. So you got a selfie camera right here. Again, not going to be anything special. I don't really care too much about the camera on this phone because you're not buying this for the camera. You're buying this for the uniqueness of the device and the physical keyboard. Headphone jack. Love to see it on these devices because yeah, these smaller companies seem to always include the stuff like the micro SD and headphone jack, which is something that the bigger companies don't do. So always props to the smaller companies for including this kind of stuff. At least it's a selling point, right? If you're not going to compete on the camera or the specs, then at least throw us a bone here with the headphone jack and the micro SD. So I'm glad they're doing that. You got a volume rocker here. Yep, and I'm guessing this is the fingerprint sensor and power. Actually, no, this will be the fingerprint sensor, and I guess this will be the power button. This is interesting. I have to take a look at what that exactly is. Looks like a special button there. Let's take a look. So that's a camera button, okay. So they have a dedicated camera shutter button, which is interesting. The only other phone I know that does this is Sony Xperia. I don't know many other phones that have this camera shutter button feature. Yeah, oh, focus. Okay, here we go. Yep, so I don't really know many other phones that have this camera shutter button feature except for the Sony Xperia. That's the only other phone I know that does that, but it's cool it has that. Just a shortcut to open the camera, but again, doesn't matter too much because we know this phone's camera is going to suck because it's a startup company. And you have your SIM card slot and micro SD tray, I'm guessing here. But it's nice actually, you don't have to use a removal tool. I think I can just use my fingernail to open this. Yep. You don't need a SIM card removal tool. I'm glad to see that. So yeah, you have a slot for your micro SD and then your SIM card right here. Yeah, so oh, it's metal too. I like that. So I like that it's metal, not plastic. So that's you know, sometimes SIM card trays do break, right, if they're plastic. So it's good this one is metal. And I also like the fact that you can just use your fingernail to open it. You don't need a special SIM ejector tool. All right. So anyways, it looks like a normal phone, right? It looks like a normal smartphone if you don't open it up. But the special thing about this phone is that you can do this. Damn. Okay, anyways, I don't know what that sound was. I was trying to be like, bam, right? Bam, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, anyways, now you have your physical keyboard here. And it's pretty much exactly the same as the Pro 1. Not too much difference, I don't think. I don't even think the keyboard, yeah, I don't think they did anything with this keyboard. I think it's just the same keyboard as the Pro 1. Really, I think the only changes are the hardware side, the spec side, I should say. Yeah, the CPU is a better CPU, slightly better, I should say. It's not like a top-of-the-line CPU or anything. A little bit more RAM, and the operating system's different. This one being Ubuntu Touch, I'm hoping. Yeah, I guess we'll see whether or not it runs Ubuntu Touch when we actually boot it up. But thoughts about the physical keyboard. Okay, so I have kind of mixed feelings about it. So back in 2020, yes, I reviewed the original FxTec Pro1 all the way back in 2020. And I always thought this keyboard was, well, let's say what I like and dislike about it. So what I do like about it is that it is pretty much, it's a full set of keys. Like, out of a smartphone, a modern day smartphone, you're probably not going to find a keyboard that has, you know, a bigger set of keys than this. This has pretty much all the keys that you need, and there's very little where you have to use some kind of secondary function, right? So you can see that most of the keys here, they don't have a secondary function here because they're just, you have pretty much all you need right here, and that's good. It's a 5-row keyboard, but it's reasonably full for a smartphone keyboard, so you don't need to do too many secondary functions. I mean, I can see this one has some kind of translator function, and then of course these ones have some secondary functions for the, whatever, you know, semicolon and stuff like that. But overall, you don't need to do a secondary function press too much. This is pretty much almost a full set of keys, 66 keys, I believe, on this one. As full as you're going to get on a modern day smartphone keyboard, right? I mean, given the fact that what are your competitors? Planet Computers and Unihertz, and that's pretty much it, right? When it comes to physical keyboard phones now. So it's not like it has much competition, but, you know, again, as full of a keyboard as you can get on a modern day smartphone. That's a good thing. The bad thing, it's squished. Like, you can clearly see that it's very small keys. It's squished. Because they had to fit a 66 key keyboard in here in the same form factor as a typical smartphone, yeah, you're gonna have squished keys. So that's the thing. The keys don't really feel great to press on. The feedback, right? It's like, it just feels like a typical membrane keyboard, almost similar to the early I mean, it's actually similar to phones from 10 years ago where you had like slide out keyboards like that. If you guys know the Motorola Droid and like the all those slider keyboard phones back in the day, yeah, like HTC Touch Pro 2, I think, is one I used as well. Like, yeah, there's so many like slider keyboard phones back, like we're talking like 12 years ago, right? Like circa 2012 or something. There was so many slider keyboard phones on the market. They all pretty much died, but yeah, they all ran Android and stuff. And this feels similar to that. It's just like you have these really like, you know, membrane. These are membrane keyboards, of course, but yeah, it just feels like a little bit squishy, and it's very squished because it has to fit this many keys in the keyboard, right? So pro and con, right? The pro is you get a lot of keys here. The con being that they're squished and doesn't really feel particularly well to type on. Compare this to the to the Astro Slide or to the Cosmo Communicator, which I have here. And this is by the Planet Computers, like the other UK startup company. And you can tell like their difference in philosophy here, right? So FxTec chooses to have kind of a modern smartphone type of design in terms of actually using it. And then when you open it up, yeah, you get this keyboard that's very reminiscent to me of a Nokia E7, which is another smartphone I have that's kind of has this kind of slider design where it kind of tilts up like this. It doesn't exactly slide flat. The Astro Slide the Astro Slide does kind of tilt up a bit. So it's similar, but this one just goes straight up like this. There's no sliding horizontally, it just slides straight up and tilts up. So yeah, I think that's the design that really this reminds me of, is the Nokia E7. But yeah, you can tell that their philosophy for FxTec is to make a full-size keyboard, as much of a full size you can get on a phone, kind of squished into a modern-day smartphone form factor. And Planet Computer's philosophy, Cosmic Communicator less so, but Astro Slide, of course, is a more direct comparison. They also kind of want to do the same thing, but for them, it's less about fitting the full keyboard in, but rather giving you a good typing experience, right? So for these keys, although they have less keys overall than the FxTec, so the FxTec, you know, they just have more keys, right? You can tell that they squished in more keys here. Whereas for Planet Computers, this Scion keyboard is essentially a Scion keyboard because they hired the same designer from Scion who designed this keyboard. Yeah, pretty much what they focus on is the feedback of the typing, right? So you can type pretty well in these, you can get good feedback. This is probably as good of a keyboard as you'll find in any smartphone, really. And like I said, not much competition, but if you want to compare these two directly, like the keyboards, yeah, the main difference is that Planet Computers, Astro Slide, or Cosmic Communicator, their keyboards are going to give you better typing feedback, but they're not going to give you as many keys. That's why you see all these secondary functions kind of map to the keyboard here, because yeah, you don't have as many keys overall because you made your keys bigger, right? That's for better feedback, better typing experience. The trade-off is now you have to map all these secondary functions to all these keys here. Whereas FxTec is like, yeah, we're gonna put in a full, give you all the keys. You don't need to do like much secondary but they're going to be squished, and you're not going to get as good of a typing experience. This one is also better for thumb typing. I don't think I would ever use the FxTec for typing like this. You can't really. It's tiny. So really, the FxTec is really meant for thumb typing, right? You would type this, on your thumb. Whereas with the Astro Slide / Cosmo Communicator / Gemini PDA, all of Planet Computer's devices, you could use your thumb to do it, but also you can put it down and you can type like this. And that's totally a fine experience for this device too, because the keys are much physically larger than the FxTec. And I think back in my 2020 review video, I did prefer this way of doing it. I did prefer the larger keys with a better feedback instead of having the smaller keys with the squishy feedback. So I didn't like this one as much. Yeah, it does have more keys overall, but you're compromising the typing experience. Here, the typing experience is definitely better. It gives you more feedback. Keys are easier to hit, but you're losing out on the amount of keys overall, so you need to use the secondary functions more. Overall, I think for a typing experience, I think definitely this is better. Really depends how you use your keyboard, how much you use it, right? Definitely, I would say if you're planning to use your phone more regularly, like on a touch screen, then I think the FxTec is better, because this is pretty much just like a regular phone once you use it as a touch screen. But say, I don't have the Astro Slide here, but say this is an Astro Slide, right? And I did review the Astro Slide before. Yes, it can do this as well, but it's still clunky because of the size of the device. So Planet Computer's devices have always been fairly large, and just for point of comparison here, you can tell here how much larger the Cosmo Communicator here and the Astro Slide is pretty much the same size as the Cosmo Communicator. So by extension, the Astro Slide as well. You can see how much thicker and bigger it is than the FxTec Pro1. The FxTec Pro1 is definitely more meant to be used as a regular touchscreen phone, and then you have this keyboard when you really need it. But it's not like a good typing experience, I would say. Whereas this device is definitely meant to be more of a typing experience first and foremost, rather than using it as a phone. And I would say for the Astro Slide, it's the same thing. I know Astro Slide is more easier to use as a phone than this, but you know, it's still going to be clunky, right? And honestly, I like the Cosmic Communicator better. The design is better. It feels nicer than the Astral Slide. The Astral Slide kind of had this plastic back here. This one actually has this aluminum back, which is nice. It also has a secondary display here. I know the Astral Slide has, you know, it has just a full display, but this one technically has two displays, one on the outside and one on the inside. The Astral Slide only has one display that slides and tilts up. So this one technically has more displays. And it's just a more unique looking device. So anyways, I kept the Cosmic Communicator because this is a cool device. It's really unique looking. The Astral Slide, it looks good. I mean, it looks interesting too, of course, but not as interesting as a Cosmic Communicator. This is just a cooler looking device because it has that secondary display, and yeah, it opens up like a Nokia communicator basically, whereas the Astral Slide just feels like they tacked on a Scion keyboard to like a sliding, like this kind of interface. It's like this, but with a Scion keyboard instead. And it's a bigger, clunkier phone than the FxTec. But anyways, yeah, difference between the FxTec and the Planet Computers devices would be just how you're going to use it, right? Are you going to type more, or are you going to use it more like as a smartphone? I think if you're going to use it more as a regular smartphone, the FxTec is probably the way to go. If you're going to type more with it, then definitely Planet Computers, either Astral Slide or a Cosmic Communicator. The Astral Slide being better to use if you're planning to use it more as a phone, but I don't have it anymore because honestly I wasn't going to use it much as a phone anyways, but I kept the Cosmic Communicator because this one is honestly more cooler and unique looking device. All right. So that's it. That was a bigger, you know, discussion about Planet Computers versus FxTec, both UK startup companies, both making physical keyboard phones that kind of slide out. But let's take a look at the FxTec Pro1 X. Let's boot it up, see if it actually runs Ubuntu Touch. So yeah, I'm curious to check that out, so stay tuned. Alright guys, so I finally got Ubuntu Touch running on the FxTec Pro1 X. And believe me, this did not come with Ubuntu Touch pre-installed. I mean, I expected to get something, right? It definitely came with Android pre-installed. It came with Android 11. But I was expecting to get Ubuntu Touch pre-installed since that's what FxTec promised, right? On their marketing materials, they said, hey, this comes pre-installed with the operating system of your choice in addition to Android, right? So they gave two options of Ubuntu Touch or Lineage. So I decided to go with Ubuntu Touch, and it did not come with it pre-installed. I had to actually look up how to get this installed, and took me a few hours to figure out because it wasn't that simple. Basically, like to get Ubuntu Touch installed on this thing, you need to go through UB ports, and that's like an installer for Ubuntu Touch. Ran into some issues with it because you have to install ADB and fastboot on your computer. I use Windows to do the installation, so I had to install ADB, fastboot, and then it'll kind of get stuck on this booting up to fastboot D type screen on UB ports, and for a few hours I couldn't figure out how to get past this because it kept getting stuck at this. It will basically restart, go to the bootloader, and then restart again and go to the fastboot D, and you'll get stuck, and UB ports would get stuck on that, and it wouldn't continue the installation. And I had to go through a bunch of troubleshooting online, and I'm just going to put the screen up here for you guys because what I had to do eventually was, if you guys are wanting to get Ubuntu Touch installed on this device, basically you gotta this is not like straightforward like to think about, but you actually have to install these updates on Windows Update. And yeah, these are the ones I had to uninstall, the LE Mobile or something like that. After I installed those, then I can finally run fastboot D, and then UB ports got unstuck again. But yeah, basically I ran into some issues because UB ports kept getting stuck, and then had to do this Windows Update thing to get it unstuck. And now I finally got Ubuntu Touch installed on this thing. So it wasn't that straightforward. Yeah, and it didn't come pre-installed with this phone like FxTec promised, so that's a bit of a bummer. But at least we got it working now. Yeah, and I didn't break my device, which is good. So yeah, this is what Ubuntu Touch looks like. So basically, oh yeah, the fingerprint sensor doesn't work with Ubuntu Touch. So, okay. To unlock here. So by the way, I forgot to talk about this, but this has only one USB-C port right here on this side. So yeah, only one USB-C port, and that's compared, like for the Astro Slide and the Cosmo Communicator, there's actually two USB ports, one on this side and one on this side. So that's a little bit of a difference here. The Planet Computers devices have two USB ports, one on each side, but the FxTec Pro1 and Pro1 X only have one USB port, just like most other smartphones. And I think that's partly because the Planet Computers devices, they're meant almost like a replacement for, I guess, a laptop in some cases, because this can actually run full-blown Debian Linux. So yeah, the Cosmo Communicator, even though this is not updated anymore, this hasn't been updated since 2021. I know Planet Computers isn't great either at updating their devices, but yeah, their last update, at least they can run full-blown Debian. I'm not sure about the Astro Slide if it can run full-blown Debian yet, but the Cosmo Communicator definitely can. And we have Ubuntu Touch running on the FxTec Pro1 X, which I think mostly should work except for the fingerprint sensor. And yeah, otherwise I think it mostly works. Anyways, this is the web browser right now. It's this web browser called yeah, this is what's this called, like Morph or something? Morph browser? Yeah, I think it's called Morph browser. Yeah, anyways, we're in portrait here. Let's go to landscape mode. I guess that's the mode you'd probably be using with this thing when you're typing. So come on, there we go. So I have to say Ubuntu Touch is definitely not as responsive as Android, and yeah, basically it's nice to have a device with Ubuntu Touch just to have something different, but I would never use this for a daily computer, like a daily phone, over over Android, because yeah, it's definitely not as performant. It's laggy, and I'll show you guys what I mean here. So say I open a new tab on Morph browser here, and I go to Engadget. By the way, I don't think this keyboard is backlit, whereas the Cosmo Communicator and the Astro Slide keyboard is actually backlit. This one is not. But yeah, that's another, like, I guess that's a nitpick, but still, like, it's not a backlit keyboard like the... I'll show you guys what I mean. So this is Cosmo Communicator, and Astro Slide as well has this feature, but basically you can turn on that keyboard backlight, and this is the most it goes. But still, the fact that you have a backlit keyboard on this device is definitely another one in favor. I mean, I already like the bigger keys and the tactile feedback of this keyboard, but having the backlit keyboard is definitely another bonus of this keyboard over the FxTec, which doesn't have any kind of backlit. Anyways, also this is not as great to type on because it doesn't have the feedback of the Scion style keyboard that the Cosmo and the Astro Slide have. But anyways, okay, let's just go to like Engadget.com, for example. And so how long it takes to load. Okay, so yeah, I mean, you guys can tell, right? Like, I'm scrolling through this, it's not that responsive. Yeah, it's not like really responsive at all. So I mean, definitely Android is going to be more performant just for doing something. Let's go to IGN. Yep, it's loading. Yeah, I mean, it works, but it's not ideal. I mean, definitely Android's better. So basically for Ubuntu Touch here, the different commands here, you can swipe down from the top right, and you can see the battery life right here. I can turn on the flashlight. Sound, I actually can set it up to full if you guys want to hear the speakers at full. It's actually okay. The speakers are okay. I'm not going to say they're great, but they're okay. Then you have your network tab here, flight mode. You can turn on mobile data, 2 SIM cards. This actually has 2 SIM card slots here. Same thing with the Cosmo, by the way. That also has, and the Astro Slide, they both have 2 double SIM card slots. And let's see, oh yeah, I can check the time and the date here, which you also have a calendar for, the clock. So yeah, I can set that. So that's all with the upper right swipe. Then you can swipe out from this way, and you have access to all your different current apps. Yeah, so this is basically, I mean, it's based off of Ubuntu, right? So this is essentially what you get in the full Linux distribution of Ubuntu, just kind of it's made to work with a mobile operating system, right? So of course I got to reduce some features, but it's in a similar way, right? Still to the full-blown Ubuntu that you normally get on desktop. So, yep. And then yeah, I can go to like and get rid of this or something. I guess that's something that you can normally do on operating systems, like mobile operating systems, right? Anyways, like Android has had this for a while too. You go to YouTube and just play something, okay, so you guys can see the performance of the YouTube app. Okay, I'm gonna just play a K-pop song here. So I like this song. And we have an ad. It's weird because it says open app here, and I'm already in the YouTube app. So I guess it's because this is an Ubuntu Touch app.
With 100% Canadian whole grain oats. Quaker, you've got this.
Okay. So let's see. And again, this video is honestly a little bit laggy. Okay, so the sound is not too bad. It's got stereo speakers. So anything stereo speakers definitely is not too bad. Right, there's some phones with only mono speakers, so this is definitely better than anything with a mono speaker. It's not great, but still, yeah, stereo speakers aren't bad. But you guys can tell the video is a little bit choppy. I wonder if I can press spacebar to stop. Nope. Okay, so anyways, that's a YouTube app on Ubuntu Touch, and yeah, we'll just swipe back like this. Go back to our browser, and yeah. So I mean, this stuff is stuff that you know, Android has had for a while, and you know, obviously based on the desktop Ubuntu as well. This is like basically your sidebar menu for launching your apps. You can try the camera. It's not going to be great, but you know, always worth trying out. So it's my Cosmo here. So you take a picture. Camera app should be started, right? Oh, what's going on here? I have to do this. Is it not working? Launch camera app. Okay. At least I expect camera app to work. I expect it to be not good, but I would at least expect it to work. So, okay. Let's tap to focus here. Again, no ultra wide and no telephoto, just a normal wide angle. Okay. Oh my god, that was such a long... Okay. Man, I haven't seen like performance this bad since I reviewed the Pine phone, which was like what, 3 or 4 years ago. I reviewed the Pine phone, which is like another Linux phone. That camera was absolutely terrible. I think this camera is like, yeah, it's better than the Pine phone. I mean, that's not saying much, but yeah, better than the Pine phone. And honestly, it's not going to be like, yeah, honestly, I can't say anything like about this because the Cosmo Communicator's camera is not good either. So it's probably on the same level as the camera on the Cosmo or the Astro Slide. So I mean, it's functional. That's all I can say. It's not good, but it's functional. So anyways, yeah, I can tell like how much grain is in that detail here on that low light performance. So it's at night right now. A lot of grain there. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting a good camera. Just and the camera should be pretty much similar to your BlackBerry level phones, and your other small companies like Unihertz and Planet Computers will have all pretty bad cameras, but that's what you expect, right? At least better than Pine phone. But Pine phone is like one of the worst cameras I've ever used for a modern phone. Okay, so this is the App Store. It's called Open Store. So this is the Ubuntu Touch App Store here. Let's see, this is some of the popular apps, I guess. yeah. Yeah, anyways, you do have an app store here. They're like Linux apps, of course, all Ubuntu compatible apps. But this is maybe this is specific to Ubuntu Touch, because I'm guessing desktop Ubuntu would have a lot more apps than this. But yeah, this would be the app store for Ubuntu Touch here. What's this one? Is this one news? Looks like news and events. Oh no, it's contacts. Okay, and then we got messages, which is SMS, and then you got your phone, of course, because it's a phone. You gotta have that basic feature. All right, and then you have your whole list of apps right here. Yep, I mean, it's cool to have Ubuntu Touch on a phone. It's definitely not my favorite mobile operating system to use if I were to use this daily. I'm definitely iOS and Android are the best to use, right, just from a practical perspective. Then for the other operating systems, I think I might actually prefer Sailfish over this, because Sailfish is actually a pretty nice looking operating system. Only runs on a few devices right now, but Sailfish or Lineage actually would be actually preferable as well, because Lineage is pretty much based on Android. It's just Android without the Google stuff. So I would probably use Lineage over this as well. So Ubuntu Touch is really kind of a novelty. I'm not really sure if I would ever use this as a main phone, but it's cool to have, I guess. Just as a, yeah, I mean, that's music. This looks really similar to the icon for Apple's music app. Suspiciously similar, actually. Yeah, other than that, pretty much you have everything like calculator, calendar, clock, external storage file manager. Yeah, it's all your pretty basic stuff, actually. Weather terminal, so you have your terminal here. Can I type in some commands? This is a Linux terminal, of course. Oh, you need a authentication. Alright, so I had to authenticate, but here I am in the terminal here. So we can just let's do something similar, like very basic here, right, on the terminal. Yep, something like that. Okay, that works. Right, I input some commands here. Yeah, we can look at our, yeah, I can kind of look at our directory. Of course, I'm not expecting anything here. Can we not tab? Shift tab? Nope. Okay, well, maybe that doesn't work for autocomplete. Oh. Oh, why isn't it like that? It's because it's not. Okay, no, tab does work. Okay, never mind. Just because it was case sensitive, that's all. Okay, I see. Yep, that works. Anyways, that's some terminal stuff. You guys can see that. So yeah, I mean it's Ubuntu, so it's Linux. You would expect to be able to access some terminal stuff. What else? What does the settings look like? Hotspot, VPN, NFC, background and appearance. Of course, I'll probably change. Oh yeah, please put it in dark mode. I'll probably change the wallpaper later. Sounds on max right now. Gestures. Oh yeah, so this is what version of? This is Ubuntu. It is 20.04 OTA 4. Not sure if there's going to be any newer ones, but that's the latest one I can put on the Pro1 X. That's pretty much it, right? You can look at the calendar here, very basic. So yep, that's the calendar here, right? Week, month, year. So yeah, that's what you expect from a calendar. Let's see, barcode reader, of course you have that. What's analyst? Calculator. Guessing my keyboard should work here as well, right? No? What? I can't use the buttons. I can't use the keypad for this. I mean the keyboard for this. I should be able to enter numbers from the keyboard, right? Okay, yeah, now it works. Why wasn't it working before? Yeah, okay, yeah, of course that works. And do that. Oops. Okay, yeah, that works. Be like 23 times 45 equals. Okay, yeah, that works. That's calculator. What's analyst? What? Next generation anime platform. What's this? Why was this pre-installed? I never installed this. That's funny. This just came with this Ubuntu Touch distribution. I didn't actually install this app, so this just came on the device. Actually, I can use the arrow keys here. Yeah, this just came on the device, this anime list thing, which is cool because I love anime, but wow, didn't expect it to be pre-installed on this thing. Yep, pretty much it. I downloaded the YouTube app. Yep, that's pretty much Ubuntu Touch, guys. Yeah, it's really kind of a novelty of an operating system, because right now, yeah, it's definitely usable on the Pro1 X, right? Except for the fingerprint sensor, it's definitely usable. It's not like going to be very performant because sometimes it does lag, but it is usable. I would just never use it as my primary phone, but just as kind of a novelty operating system on a secondary, tertiary mobile device. I don't mind having it. Again, I'd probably use like Sailfish or Lineage over this, but I guess it's cool just to have a device running Ubuntu Touch. So it's something interesting, right? But yeah, I would say like the usage case for this device, the Pro1 X, basically, like I said, depends. Like if you really want this to be your main phone, first of all, don't put Ubuntu Touch on it if you want it to be your main phone. Just keep it at Android 11. Even then, not sure how often it's going to get updates, because with companies like Planet Computers and and FxTec, you don't know how long they support these devices for. So they don't usually support them very long, because I mean the last update for the Cosmo was in 2021. And this came out in 2020, so it basically only got 1 year of updates, and that was it. So that's kind of sad. And Astro Slide, I don't know how many updates it got, but probably not that many. Same thing, FxTec, I wonder, how many updates it's going to get. We'll see. The original Pro 1, not sure how many updates it got. So that's one thing. If you're going to use this as your main phone, just be aware. I'm not sure how often it's going to be updated. Another thing is this keyboard, of course. So if you're going to use the FxTec Pro1 or Pro1 X, you're using it mostly for the keyboard. And come on, there we go. You're using it mostly for the keyboard. And this keyboard is mostly for thumb typing. I mean, it works fine, but just keep in mind that it's not like you're not getting a great feedback response out of this. It's not like great to type on or anything, but it works, and it's definitely, you have access to all the keys here, so you're not really missing any. It works okay-ish. So it's definitely, like, out of the devices right now that have physical keyboards, right? So you have the Unihertz, Titan devices. Those keyboards are very BlackBerry style, and I would say I prefer this keyboard for sure to those kind of keyboards, because this one is more roomier than the BlackBerry style. The BlackBerry style keyboards are very cramped, especially the ones on the Unihertz. Compared to the Planet Computers devices like the Astro Slide and the Cosmo, I prefer this keyboard because these keyboards, the Scion type keyboards, they definitely have more feedback, are more tactile, and they have a backlit keyboard here. Yeah, so the trade-off is that they don't have as many keys, so you have all these secondary functions, and that's might be okay. If you don't mind doing a lot of shifting in FN, it might be okay, because you do have the most commonly used keys here, but you might need the secondary functions here. Then you'll need to use some shortcuts. But overall, I do like typing on this keyboard a lot more, but this is just more of a bulkier device. So this device is not meant for, it's really not meant to be used as a phone, really. Even the Astro Slide, I know the Cosmo Communicator even more so, because this is like really, who's going to use this as a phone, right? This is a phone, but almost nobody really is going to use this as a phone. It looks ridiculous if you have to hold it up to your face like this, right? So yeah, the Astro Slide definitely makes this better, because it's like the FxTec where it kind of like slides out. But even then, it's still a bulky device compared to the FxTec. So the FxTec is, I would say, yeah, it looks more like a normal sized smartphone when the keyboard is folded in. So I give props to FxTec for that. I do think that as an everyday smartphone form factor, it's better for use than the Astro Slide or Cosmo for sure. But yeah, just if you're okay with this smaller keyboard, it's alright. I think that if you're looking for physical keyboards, not like there's many options, right? It's either Unihertz or this, the FxTec, or the Planet Computer stuff. That's pretty much it. You don't really have many choices for physical keyboards on a modern phone now. The other one is Clicks, right? That startup that Michael Fisher did, Mr. Mobile. But the Clicks keyboard, I've heard some mixed opinions about that one too. That's meant to be kind of like a BlackBerry keyboard that you fit onto your phone, but it makes the phone almost comically very, very large. And like it makes it super tall, right? Because it's like you have like another keyboard that you have down here, you got to slot it into it. And yeah, I've definitely heard a lot of mixed opinions about that one, because it just makes it super tall and unbalanced when you're using it. So yeah, as for the actual feedback of that, I'm not sure. I never used a Clicks keyboard. That would be the only other option this would be competing with. And I would say that this is still a better form factor because it's not super tall. Like when you have the Clicks keyboard, it's super tall. So I would say, yeah, in terms of actually using it as a normal smartphone, the FxTec Pro and Pro1 X, yeah, I think these are actually the best options on the market right now for a phone with a normal sized, you know, kind of form factor with a physical keyboard. Because yeah, both the Planet Computers devices, the Cosmo and the Astro Slide, are both kind of comically bulky. The Unihertz devices, the keyboard is, yeah, honestly, really cramped. So yeah, I would say the keyboard on the FxTec, even though it's more cramped than the Planet Computers, is still preferable over any of the Unihertz keyboards on their BlackBerry style devices. And compared to the Clicks keyboard, yeah, this is still a better form factor than the Clicks keyboard. You don't want like having that super mega tall form factor when you have that Clicks keyboard installed. Yeah, not preferable either. So I say FxTec has the best option there. So yeah, so I do think that there's a market for this device. I think it is the most usable device with a decent physical keyboard on the market right now. So that's something that FxTec has. So yeah, just don't use Ubuntu Touch or something. I think Lineage is okay because Lineage is actually built off of Android. Or derived from Android. Ubuntu Touch is really just kind of a novelty, right? It's not really something I'd use as my main phone. Or you can just use the stock Android 11 from this. And what you do get from that is you get a phone that has a pretty normal form factor for like an everyday phone, right? And then it's not even that thick, honestly. Like I'm easy to still grip it. I've compared this is my everyday phone, my Asus Zenfone 10. So you can compare it. Yeah, it's definitely thicker, but not by that much. So it's not like too much thicker, and this one has like a full-blown keyboard packed away. So yeah, and this keyboard I would say is more practical than the Clicks keyboard or the Unihertz keyboard. So you can just easily type on this compared to those keyboards, and the form factor is better than the Planet Computer Astro Slide or Cosmo. So I would say overall FxTec does have a market, because if you're looking for a phone with a normal sized form factor that has a pretty decent keyboard, then this is the one to pick up. So yeah, just be aware of the software updates. Who knows, how many of those are going to come. The camera is going to suck, so don't use this as your main camera phone. So that's another thing. If you're going to use this as a phone, don't use this as your main camera phone. I'd probably keep another phone as a camera phone. And yeah, just that's pretty much it. If I were to use this as my main device, I would just stick with stock Android 11 or or get lineage on this. Just be aware that I'm probably just going to carry another phone as my camera phone because this camera sucks, and yeah, the software updates, I'm not sure how long they're going to last. That's really it. Otherwise, I wouldn't actually mind carrying this around as my secondary phone, just because the form factor is pretty decent. The fact that it has this keyboard that's pretty decent, you know, has a lot of keys. Yeah, it's if you guys want a physical keyboard phone, then this is actually not a bad choice at all. I would take this over the clicks thing or the Unihertz, in terms of having, you know, just the keyboard, and I do like the Planet Computers keyboard better, but it's also more chunkier of a device. So yeah, I think there is definitely a market for this. So let me know what you guys think. Anyways, the FxTec Pro1 X. Finally, I got it after waiting for such a long time, over 3.5 years. I had to wait for this, and I had to manually install Ubuntu Touch onto it. But it is an interesting device. It doesn't run full-blown Linux like the Planet Computers Cosmo, or the Astro Slide, I guess, later. Okay, so I don't have a Clicks keyboard, but I do have my other two physical keyboard phones with me, and that's the BlackBerry Key 2 and the Unihertz Titan Pocket. So this is pretty much all my physical keyboard phones that I have. Well, in recent years, I would say. I do have more, but they're like much older. But yeah, I would say the FxTec Pro1 X is, yeah, it definitely has a market. It's a very niche market, but if you're looking for a phone with a physical keyboard, right? This BlackBerry style keyboard, honestly, yeah, if you get the Titan, this is a Titan Pocket, but if you can get the Titan Slim or the Titan, the bigger Titan, yeah, this keyboard's not like actually as good as the FxTec one. The FxTec one does have more keys. Now the Key 2 is a good keyboard. I really like the Key 2. A lot of people do, I think. That's what the Titan Slim was trying to be, but unfortunately, you know, this is the last BlackBerry device, so BlackBerry doesn't make any more phones. With TCL, I guess, the company making this, which is really sad. If they kept making these, I think there could have been a market for it. But yeah, this is actually a pretty nice device, but just they don't make newer ones anymore. And for the Planet Computer stuff, the Astro Slide and the Cosmo, yeah, I do like the keyboard on them better. They're just very bulky devices. They're really meant for like almost like a mini laptop replacement rather than a phone. So I would think out of all these physical keyboard devices, the FxTec Pro1 and Pro1 X are overall the best for the form factor. The combination of the form factor, because it looks just like a normal everyday phone, doesn't feel too clunky in the hand like the Planet Computer stuff does. And it has a better keyboard, right, than the Clicks and the BlackBerry style keyboards. So overall, yeah, I would say if you're looking for a physical keyboard phone, this one's not a bad one to get. I don't know why it took them so long to make the Pro1 X, especially because there isn't really many changes except for the CPU and the RAM, I think. Maybe they upgraded the camera, but I don't really care about the camera. Yeah, I'm not really sure why it took them so long to make the Pro1 X, but anyways, if they do make more of these, I do think it's a decent option for people who want to have a normal sized phone with a pretty decent physical keyboard. So that's who I would recommend it for. If you want a normal sized smartphone with the physical keyboard, the Pro1 or Pro1 X is the one to get. And I would also prefer this over the Clicks keyboard as well because, as I said, the Clicks keyboard makes the phone comically tall. That's an issue I've seen from many people who have used it. And it makes it top heavy because the phone section is going to be much heavier than the keyboard section. So it's top heavy, it's comically tall, you can't really fit it in your pocket unless you take it out of the case. But then you got to constantly put it back in the case when you want to use the keyboard, take it out again. Like that's, you know, that's a hassle. And yeah, it's overall, and plus, even if you do use it, it's just going to be like this BlackBerry keyboard. So yeah, I do think that the FxTec does have advantages just for being a normal sized phone that you can fit in your pocket, and it comes with a physical keyboard that's pretty decent. So yep, that's it. So if they do make more of these devices, then I can definitely see it does have a market, right? Just don't expect much from the camera, and yeah, like maybe if they make the software, you know, a little bit more polished, that would be better as well. So yeah, the FxTec Pro1 X, definitely easier to use as a regular phone here. So yeah, this is like, just holding it vertically like this is perfectly usable. Like go into browser here, Morph browser, and funny enough, it uses DuckDuckGo as its kind of main search engine here. It does not use Google, it uses DuckDuckGo, which is kind of something I would figure Lineage might use, but Ubuntu Touch uses it, interestingly, with Morph browser. So it's just a more privacy-focused search engine, more privacy-focused search engine to use. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I was like searching for some wallpapers here. Let's see, take a look here. One for phones. Yeah, and it's definitely a bit slow, on the slow side, I would say. It's yeah, not really just my internet. I mean, my internet's plenty fast. It's just yeah, Ubuntu Touch I find to be a little bit laggy. So definitely when compared to like Sailfish or Lineage, yeah, there's a bit of lag on Ubuntu Touch, I find. But yeah, I mean, just to view a picture, for example, let's look at this one. It's a pretty nice picture, and then we can view it landscape like this. Let's see how well we can do that. Okay, I can go to the next one. Yeah, okay, I can just kind of scroll like that. But of course, this is phone wallpaper, so it's made for vertical like this. Okay, that works well enough. Actually, I wouldn't mind. This one's pretty good. Ooh, that's a Spider-Man one. What was that one that I saw? This one's not bad. Huh, Apple. Why did I put Apple stuff on here? It was not bad. I wonder why this one doesn't load. Yeah, this one is actually, I think this one's pretty good too. Okay, here we go. That's a pretty nice picture here. I'm gonna save the image, and then we're gonna set it here by going to the settings. And yeah, so the settings menu does look a little bit different in portrait mode as well. It definitely looks more more usable, actually. It's not as usable in landscape, which you guys have seen before. It's definitely more usable here in portrait mode. As you guys can see all the icons and everything that you couldn't see in the landscape mode. So I think this is definitely designed to be used, or Ubuntu Touch is definitely designed to be used in portrait mode. So we can go to background appearance, and we can go add an image here. Go to Morph browser, and the one that we just downloaded here. Whoops, I gotta select it like this. Yeah, select it like this. Okay, there we go. We're good. So I'm gonna choose that. Yeah, and so we can do VPN, we can do hotspot, NFC, Bluetooth. Yeah, so this is all the things you guys have seen before. The settings screen. Only now it actually looks better because it's designed for portrait mode. What's Libertine? Sandbox Application Manager. Huh. I don't know what Libertine is. Check our battery life right there. I'm not exactly sure how long this lasts, but yeah, it should be pretty average, I guess. Let's see if you have any updates here. Oh yeah, we are. Those are updated. Mouse and touchpad is interesting. You need to use a Bluetooth mouse or touchpad with this display. It's interesting to have. You can customize your gestures here. Edge drag areas width. You can make the dragging areas more or less sensitive, I guess. And yeah, everything else is pretty much what you've seen in Android or iOS, right? It's pretty similar settings for everything else. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's look at the new wallpaper that we just. There we go. That's the new wallpaper that we just changed. Cool. Anyways, yeah, definitely easier to use this phone as a regular smartphone compared to the other physical keyboard options out there. Yeah, so compared to the Clicks keyboard, or compared to any of the Planet Computers phones devices, or compared to any of the Unihertz devices, I definitely think that out of all the physical keyboard phones currently, which we don't have a lot, but still, out of all the physical keyboard phones that we have on the market right now, I think that the FxTec Pro1 X may be the most usable as a regular phone. So if you're planning to get one of these to use and you're going to be using it as a regular phone most of the time, then I think this is probably still the best option. Just the size, and yeah, the size is not too like chunky or anything like that, and you can still use it as a regular phone. Doesn't feel like it's you know, doesn't feel like it's too oversized or anything like that. And the keyboard, I would say, is, yeah, it's pretty decent, I guess, for something of this compact form factor. So, yep, the FxTec Pro1 X, I think out of all the options, definitely the best one to be used as a regular phone. Oh yeah, so when I say that this phone is slow, I don't mean that it, that it's because of Ubuntu Touch. It could be because of the hardware as well. It does have a Qualcomm Snapdragon 662, which is not really that powerful of a processor. I mean, it's kind of like a mid-range type processor. So it could be the hardware as well, or it could be the hardware and the Ubuntu Touch OS in combination. I didn't really play around too much with Android on this phone. I just went right ahead to install Ubuntu Touch because that's what I wanted. So it could be running better on Android, or it could be running like just as slow on Android. I'm not sure. But I know for one thing is that when I'm just scrolling through a web page, looking at photos, or I'm watching a YouTube video on this thing, it should not be laggy like it is. So I'm not sure if that's that's the combination of the processor, which is kind of a mid-range processor, and the operating system. But it shouldn't really be slowing down like that. I mean, this phone is shipped to me in 2024, right? Like, there's no excuse for not being able to have a YouTube video like be running smoothly, right? Watching a phone. I mean, I'm watching on my phone. So yeah, I mean, the Pine phone, for example, that one, I get that it really wasn't meant for like mainstream consumers and everything, and that one was kind of like a developer build or whatever, Manjaro Linux. But this phone, like, yeah, you're shipping it to consumers, right? It should be ready, and this being the Pro1 X, it should be more powerful than the Pro1. So yeah, I don't expect any kind of hardware issues, given that this is supposed to be an upgrade from the Pro1 in terms of hardware, and that's why it's the Pro1 X. So yeah, I don't know why exactly it seems to be like lagging on this operating system, especially when FxTec said that this and Lineage, like, it supports Ubuntu Touch and Linux, and they really advertise that a lot. So I really do expect it to be running better than this. So a bit disappointing with the performance. Also, the screen sometimes, like you guys have saw it before, sometimes it flickers, and I'm not sure why. See, it's fine now, but occasionally the screen flickers, and I don't know if that's a defect with the display or something. So that's another thing I'll have to check out more. But yeah, those are kind of my disappointments with this phone, I guess, is the performance is not very good. I already knew the camera wasn't very good, so I'm not going to say the camera was too big of a disappointment, because I didn't have expectations for the camera. But at the very least, I expected this phone to perform better than it does. and I think the Cosmo communicator actually performs better than this phone, despite the Cosmo being like 3 years older than this phone. Yeah, so that's, I don't know, that's not really that acceptable to me for a phone that I just got in 2024. It should be performing better than it does. Especially given the price I paid for. I paid like $700 for this, right? So it's not really a price for a mid-range phone. Yeah, so some kind of combination of the hardware and software is lagging, the display flickering and stuff like that. That's a little bit unacceptable for me. But I have praise for the form factor. I do like the form factor of this. This is a kind of an older school form factor you might find on on devices like some Windows phone back then had this kind of keyboard as well. I think it was the HTC Touch Pro 7 or something like that, had this kind of slide out keyboard that tilts up as well, or the Nokia E7 as I mentioned. So yeah, it's cool having this kind of older school form factor that you might see from phone from 2011 or 2012 on this thing, with more modern specs. But yeah, I still expected to perform better for the money I paid, and for how long that they worked on this thing. It being a Pro1 X model, it's supposed to be faster than the Pro1, and I didn't feel like it was that much faster than the Pro1 actually. So yep, maybe it's just some kinks that the FX team needs to sort out with Ubuntu Touch. So yeah, just wanted to mention that. That's probably my biggest disappointment with this phone is that it runs, like, the fact that it runs Ubuntu Touch is nice, but yeah, I expect it to be a bit more performant. Alright, so now I have the Pro1 X running Ubuntu Touch, and this is the Morph browser on the side, and I have Cosmo Communicator running full-blown Debian with Conqueror browser on this side. Just to do a little bit of a comparison between the two. They're both Linux distributions, essentially. This one being more optimized for mobile operating systems, of course, and this is actually a desktop operating system. But funny enough, I actually think that that the Linux distribution on Cosmo runs pretty well. Now for Astroslide, their newer device, I'm not actually sure if they have a full like official release of Debian on the Astroslide. Certainly I know there is for Cosmo. That's one of the reasons why I kept the Cosmo. So I know this one had a full-blown Linux distribution here, and even though it doesn't have, like, you know, there's no track point or a track point nub or anything to move the mouse around, I just have to use my fingers. But seems to work pretty well, actually, and it's actually kind of snappy when I run stuff. So I've already shown this in my Cosmo Communicator video, but yeah, this can run like the full-blown Debian Linux, which is really, really cool. And Ubuntu Touch really is just a scaled-down version of Ubuntu here that's optimized for mobile operating systems. Yeah, let's see. I'm not sure what's going on with the display here. But yeah, I find like the Ubuntu Touch is actually, yeah, it's definitely, for some reason, like it's optimized for mobile operating systems, and yet it's still a little bit laggy, right? Whereas I feel like on this Debian distro for Cosmo, yeah, it's not really meant for mobile operating systems, but I mean, you do get like more of a desktop-like experience for sure, right? This being like essentially a desktop operating system running on this mobile device, it's actually pretty decent. And if, say, I want to go to another website here, let's just go to new tab, and let's go to IGN.com like I did on the Pro1 X. Okay, so we load this up, and on this one you'll, let's see, IGN.com. There, it's just, yeah, it takes a while for that. Okay, so yeah, this is IGN on Pro1 X, right? So you get this kind of gimped mobile version, essentially. And it's really not that great to run, but anyways, you get this kind of gimped mobile version where, yeah, it's usable, but compare that to on the Conqueror version, which runs surprisingly really well. Yeah, runs surprisingly pretty well. I prefer this, the Conqueror version, because, yeah, this one is just like, everything is kind of zoomed in a little bit too much, and I get more real estate out of this one. Maybe because this one is like trying to be like a desktop browser, but definitely the Cosmo has a more desktop experience. And it is running a full desktop operating system right now compared to Ubuntu Touch. So yeah, let's see. All right, we can check out the console here. Just by going to console, and you can input some Linux commands here, just like I did on the Pro1 X console. For this, we have to do the secondary buttons here, because yeah, on this keyboard there's not enough keys, so we need to go with the secondary one. That's the drawback of this type of keyboard. But it is nice to type on, better to type on than the Pro1 X, I think. Yep, so there's my little command here, very simple Linux command, works. And you see the files. Can probably try to tab that. Yep, tabbing works. And yeah, yep, so that's doing some basic Linux commands, but that's the console on here, which is a desktop, you know, class console, because this is a desktop operating system, right? And of course the Ubuntu Touch has pretty much the same thing, but anyways, I actually like this Debian distribution on the Cosmo. It works actually quite well, like surprisingly well for yeah, for being on a mobile device. And it's not specifically meant to be on a mobile device, but the fact that it's on a mobile device and actually like still works as well as it does is pretty impressive. And honestly, like, I might actually prefer this over Ubuntu Touch because, I mean, it's the full-fledged, you know, desktop class Debian. So yeah, anything that you get for Debian, you can just put it on here. Whereas on Ubuntu Touch, you can only go to that that open app store for Ubuntu Touch and stuff. But yeah, pros and cons, right? I think overall I do like this this Debian interface for Cosmo. As for Ubuntu Touch, yep, still not bad either. Yeah, so it's probably more streamlined to install apps on Ubuntu Touch because you have Open Store, which makes it more streamlined and easier. Whereas on the full-blown Linux distro, you have to do it a more traditional way of downloading your Linux app and installing it on there, right, in a package. But either way, yeah, I think it's an interesting comparison. I personally think that if I were to choose between the two, yeah, they're pretty different devices. Like they're similar in terms of the form factor. Of having a physical keyboard tied to a phone, but as you guys can tell right now from the physical size differences, the Planet Computers devices, the Astro Slide and the Cosmo, are more meant for people who are going to be using it more like as almost like a mini laptop replacement, right? So that's why it's running a full-blown desktop operating system right now, right? The Debian. So really is meant to be like a full-blown yeah, like almost a laptop replacement, or just like a mini laptop essentially. So it's not really a phone, even though it is a phone, but it's not really meant to be used as a phone. With the FxTec Pro1 X, yeah, this one can also, like, it can also run these other operating systems, but it's definitely more meant to be used as a phone, right? And you can tell that from the form factor here, right? This one, you put it on a table or something, you can do some typing right here. And you can also do thumb typing, but it's definitely more comfortable, I would say, to use this, like just put it on a table and then use it like this. And you have a desktop, you know, operating system here with the Debian distro here. Whereas with the Pro1 X, the typing, you can't really do it well like this. You have to maybe like go by like using your fingers like this, or just thumb typing is probably better on this one because it's much smaller, and it's much more useful as an actual phone because it has the actual form factor of a phone, right? Even with the Astro Slide, like I said, it does try to get this form factor, but it's still this size, like it's still clunky and chunky, right? So I don't think most people would probably kind of balk at using the Astro Slide as an actual phone because the size is still like way too big, whereas the FxTec Pro, yeah, this one is an actual size that people would use. So I think this one is definitely more useful as a phone, and this one is maybe more useful as a, you know, where you're going to be doing more laptop computer stuff on it. So I think that, no, not to generalize, but I think that's what you guys can tell from the form factor here that, yeah, this one more for use as a phone, this one more for use as a kind of like a computer, like a laptop replacement almost, or pseudo laptop replacement, I would say. Not exactly replacing a laptop, but certainly you can do a lot of the similar stuff. And yeah, this one more for typing, and then this one is more for occasional usage of the keyboard. This one is more for you're going to be using the keyboard a lot more, because yeah, the keyboard here is pretty much, because it's so much bigger, right? And the typing experience is better on this one. So this one definitely more for use as a, you know, more of a, you're going to be typing more with this one, I would say, than this one is just for occasional typing. Is probably, I would say, the way I would use it. So yeah, since I have these two, just want to do a small comparison between them. Yeah, I would say overall this one, the Pro1 X, better for use as a phone, and for occasional use of the keyboard, it's fine. Yeah, just do thumb typing on it. And then the Cosmo Communicator / Astro Slide, better to be used as a kind of like a pseudo laptop replacement, I would say. Not really as a phone. Yeah, and this keyboard is definitely better for typing on, and this one's meant to be used, like the keyboard is meant to be used more often on this one. Yeah, whereas this one, yeah, I think I can definitely see people using the main touchscreen as a phone more on this one, and occasional use of this keyboard. And yeah, it's just this one, like the Planet Computer stuff, it's just, I can't see many people actually using it as a phone. It's just way too clunky and big. So yeah, anyways, it's an interesting comparison between these two devices. They're both from UK startup companies, both making phones that have physical QWERTY keyboards attached. And yeah, they're both like used kind of in different ways, I would say, even though they both have the physical keyboard attached to them. They both run Linux distributions, but they're for different things. So anyways, that's it, guys. The FxTec Pro1 X. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, what you think of this phone. Yeah, and again, I don't know why it took them so long to make this one, because it's pretty much the same externally as the Pro 1. So the Pro 1 X just has like a little bit upgraded hardware. That's about it. Otherwise, I don't know why it took them so long to make it. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. And the Astro Slide, I don't have it anymore. I can definitely do a comparison with what it was when I had it. But right now I only have the Cosmo Communicator, which I think is a more interesting device than the Astro Slide in terms of the form factor. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of these two phones in the comment section below. And, yep, as always, thanks for watching.